All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the very first episode of MLB Guardcast with myself, Mike Vorhies, and the Swiss Army knife of baseball, Bryan Shaw. Bryan, our dreams are reality. What's going on, my friend?
Hi, Mike. Good to see you. This is the first episode of the MLB Guardcast. We are excited to be here. We've been doing this together for a little while, but now under a new name and in more places. So, Mike, give the people, in case this is the first time they're hearing you, a little bit of background about yourself.
Well, welcome. Let me introduce myself. Like Bryan said, I am Mike Vorhies. I've been covering the Guardians in some way, shape, or form. I covered them as the Indians as well for this is my fourth year. Absolutely love baseball. Baseball has always been my first love. So when I have an opportunity to ramble and talk some more about the Guardians, I'm all for it. I also am a high school football color commentator, although I'll be moving into the play-by-play world here very soon.
So the voice may sound very familiar to folks.
It may sound familiar. Covers Stark County high school football, which will kick off next week. Very excited. I am married with 2 kids. I reside in Akron. And like I said, I am a diehard Cleveland sports fan. The Indians are number 1 on my list. The Cavs are actually 2. The Browns are 3. But that's for another episode. We can discuss why.
And I am Bryan Shaw, not the pitcher Bryan Shaw, the former television meteorologist, broadcaster Bryan Shaw. And I have been a lifelong Cleveland fan myself, as you can see by the background. Been covering the Cleveland Guardians with you just for this season and in some sort of an official capacity, I guess you could say. But I've been a fan my entire life and have kind of as a hobby covered the team when in my broadcasting days. But I've been a broadcaster for about 13 years and decided to step away from that and kind of focus on other things and then do this as something fun. And it's been a pleasure working with you over this past season. The last time we met, we were at a live show at Ziggs in Parma, which is where I live. And that was right before the trade deadline. And we were talking about this team and what we thought that they should do. And they did nothing. They didn't do a thing.
No, they didn't. They stood pat. And I'll be honest, at first I was pretty upset. I know
I'm still mad.
I know you and I exchanged several texts about what we're going to expect. And as the day progressed, nothing. Crickets. We made one small minor deal. We traded catcher Sandy Leone and received a minor league pitcher who was actually having a very good season.
But which they said wasn't even part of the plan. It was just a part of an agreement that they had with Sandy Leone. If there was an opportunity to give him major league at-bats, which was with the Twins, they needed a catcher, that they would honor that deal. So they didn't even expect to make that trade. So what's interesting for you and I, at the beginning of the season, you were texting me on a bi-daily basis of why didn't they get this guy? Why didn't they trade for this guy? This guy's just signed and getting really mad about it. Meanwhile, I'm seeing all these trades go down, and it was the exact opposite for me, because my feelings were you were very close to, at the time, to maybe take the division lead. You had an opportunity to get into the wild card. And at the beginning of the season, I was okay with them seeing what they had in the young talent. But now that you were this close, I feel like you shouldn't squander an opportunity to upgrade the team. And even if it's not that deep of a run, just go for a little bit of it. I'm not saying trade every prospect. I'm not saying blow up the farm system, but I'm saying make some upgrades when it came to the bullpen, or get Murphy, or something to help this team just get a little bit better for this season. And they didn't do anything. And to me, that it left a sour taste in my mouth, because it just said they didn't really care about this year. Maybe they'll care more next year. But to me, it said they didn't care about this year, and whatever happens this year. And they're going to continue to evaluate the young talent, which I guess is fine. But you just never know what's going to happen next year or the year after. Look
Right.
at the White Sox. They thought their team was loaded. They thought that they were going to have the division easy, right? And injuries and just underachieving, and
A
you never
terrible
know how a guy is going
manager.
to
Oh wait,
perform.
did I say
Yeah.
that?
And you just never know how a guy is going to perform from
Right.
season to season. Just because Stephen Kwan is having an incredible rookie season doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have a better sophomore season.
Right.
So it just left a sour taste in my mouth that they didn't do much. But I don't want to dwell too much on the negative, because this team, as of today, as of this recording, is actually in their best spot that they've been all season.
Yes, the Guardians are in first place at 61-53 for you math folks. That's 8 games above 500, 2.5 games ahead of the White Sox, 2 games ahead of the Twins. We've won 7 of our last 10.
So not only that, so the 8 games above 500 is their best above 500 that they've been so far this season. The 2-game lead that they have on the Twins as of this recording at this time, the Twins are currently playing, so that could go back down to 1.5 by the time maybe this is even published. But that's the biggest lead that they've had in the division so far this season. And I checked this like 5 times because I had to make sure.
Well, we know that you are the resident statistician. You make sure that you are on point with your stats.
I'm just going to throw this out here. I want you to give me a guess. When was the last time they lost a series, and who was it against?
We got swept by Boston, I think, right? Isn't that the last one we've lost?
So they lost against the Royals July 10th.
Okay.
Was the last series that they lost. And right before that, they had got swept by Detroit.
Okay.
And since then, they have either tied the series or had won their series.
Wow.
The Boston series was June 26th.
Yeah. Okay.
So July 10th was the last series they lost against the Kansas City Royals. And that series previous to that was Detroit. And we were talking about that Detroit series because we were really mad that they were that against Detroit and Kansas City, not so great teams and sellers at the trade deadline, that they had only won 1 game over 7 games against those 2 teams. And then they had only won 2 of their last 10 because they had lost the series against the Yankees, got swept by Detroit, and then lost the series against the Royals. But then since then, they have not lost a series since.
That's insane. This team, we have been talking about it all season long. This team is so much fun to watch. They're not out of any game. I learned that the hard way when I texted you the other night when we were playing Detroit, and we were up heading into the 9th, and I'm like, wow, we're going to win this again. We're going streaking. Like, this is great. Well, then obviously Trevor Stephan did not have a very good 9th, allowed 2 runs to score to tie the game. And I remember texting you going, oh, here we go. This is how it's going to end. Really? Come on. This is terrible. And of course, you text me 15 minutes later and asked me what I'd like as a side dish with my plate of crow. And the Guardians won the game, and they're not out of any game.
Which you should have learned by now to stop making notes and texting before the games are over, because there was a couple against the Twins that you had done that.
Yeah,
you were like a Friday evening. We were going to record Friday evening, and you're sending me show notes, and then they walk it off.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm just going to keep doing what I've done all season, because all they've done is prove me wrong, and that's
just
great.
Count them out, and yeah.
Yep. I mean, this has been fantastic. This team, I mean, look at offensively. You've got Jose Ramirez is just playing out of this world, having an MVP caliber season. Unfortunately, there's a guy in New York that's playing just slightly better than him, and Aaron Judge is just a mammoth of a man and with so much power. But Jose Ramirez, like, if you haven't watched, like, what have you been doing? Jose is phenomenal. Obviously, he's the he is the leader in that clubhouse. He is the face of the franchise, if you will. But it's a different guy every night, Brian. It's not,
Yeah.
it's somebody else every night, every single
And
night. And that's the best part of it.
and I was going to say that Jose over the last month actually hasn't been like peak Jose. He's only hitting 261 over the last 28 days, has 3 home runs and 6 doubles. And even before this Toronto series, which they had just won, and he had that 4 RBI game, he was kind of really slumping. That you thought that 4 RBI game came out of it. I think there was a game against Detroit. It was really interesting because Jose was batting DH that day, and he had some difficult at-bats. And Andre Knott was saying that he was so irritated with himself that he didn't take his batting helmet off the entire game. And the entire time in between at-bats, because he didn't have to play in the field, he was just on the iPad assessing those at-bats and then trying to figure out what he was doing and trying to find ways to correct it. But in terms of what you were saying of different guy all the time, they're getting production from the young guys. Oscar Gonzalez, since returning, is batting 333 with 3 doubles, a home run, and 5 RBIs. Nolan Jones is batting 266 with 5 doubles, 2 home runs, and 13 RBIs. He's a recent call up. Tyler Freeman has a few hits and has shown in this Toronto series that he is a very capable infielder. Stephen Kwan in the last month is batting 348. Andreas Jimenez in the last month is batting 342. Incredible stuff. But even outside of all that, I think there's a big change that we had discussed in our live podcast that I said needed to change if this team was going to make a run.
And what was
the
that?
Starting pitching.
Yeah.
Remember, we were talking about how they were like last in the league when it came to hitting the edges of the strike zone and things like that. And I don't know where they are right now. I hadn't had a chance to look. But what I can tell you is that the rotation has only given up 7 runs in the last 8 games.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And that includes an Aaron Savali return.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't have expected that he would be able to pitch so well. So the rotation has really, really come on. That is huge. I think that has been a big part of this. And that has allowed the bullpen to not be as exhausted as it was. You didn't have James Karinchak for this Toronto series. And he was another one that I had said maybe about a month ago. I said, if this team, when the bullpen was getting taxed, I said, we really need early last season, James Karinchak. In the last month, his opponent batting average is 111. He has a 1.72 ERA with a 102 whip.
He's figured it out.
He's figured it out.
The back end of that bullpen is what scares me at times. I know Eli Morgan
hit or miss here and there. Yeah.
Hit or miss. Trevor Stephan, same thing. Clase, of course, is the best closer in baseball, or one of the best closers in baseball. But in order to get to him, you need guys that you can depend on. And like Uncle Brian has been that guy a little bit. So Bryan Shaw, your namesake.
I think he's off of a lot of people's hate lists now. Because he made the 2 starts that he made,
spot starts when we needed
and
bullpen
they
games.
won both those games.
Yeah,
and then closing out in the extra innings game the other day.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think we see guys like Clase and we expect a lot out of the starting pitching staff, and I think sometimes we just hold these guys to maybe a high standard that because they have done well in the past, like your Stephans and your Henches and Eli Morgans and things, like you've seen what they're capable of. And then they have an off night or two and you're like, oh no, they're falling off and the bullpen is going to be in shambles.
Well, then you look at Trevor Stephan today. He closed out the win today and he looked great. So I think guys can't be perfect every night. I think what you said is exactly right. We as fans demand perfection, but perfection doesn't really exist. And we need to be prepared that there are going to be on nights and there's going to be off nights. But with this team, the youth movement, like we talked about it earlier, like just Kwan, Gonzalez, Nolan Jones, Tyler Freeman, Will Benson, Alex Call, all these guys are we're getting a shot. Hey, we're going to call you up. We want to see what you can do. We knew that the 40 man is taxed. We have no open spots.
Yeah.
So if guys are going to come and go, you're going to have to see, with what happened with Alex Call. They brought him up. He got a cup of coffee. They designate him. He's now in Washington.
And
Franmil Reyes is another one. Like I'm sad.
I was shocked.
Like Franmil.
Shocked that they designated him for assignment and he ended up in Chicago.
They had enough. And I think they were waiting for Franmil to arrive, and he wasn't going to. I have heard and read multiple reports that he was out of shape in the outfield and very sluggish, and just he was unprepared. And I don't think that for the Guardians, he was our DH and that's what we knew him to be. But in this league, you've got to be a little bit more able to get moved around. He was going to have to make spot starts in the outfield, and there were games that he just looked like he was lost.
And this does afford them now with the DH spot open. There's guys that can kind of get moved around. Like today, Jose DH'd, and you see Oscar Gonzalez DHing sometimes, and Jimenez, or just to give them an opportunity to get them off of their feet.
The big one is Josh Naylor.
Yep,
you
Naylor
get him
too.
Away from first, let him DH. Owen Miller then plays first, and then Jimenez stays at second. They have all this flexibility.
Yeah.
And now that you have Nolan Jones and you've got Tyler Freeman, you're able to move these guys in and out and give them their at-bats. We haven't even talked about Gabriel Arias, if he's going to come back this year, if we're going to see him. I mean, Freeman's making a name for himself.
I feel like it's him or Freeman. You can't have both.
Nope. Can't have both.
And that was another reason why I thought that they would make some moves at the deadline, is because we kind of do have just too many guys that are major league ready and you can't see them all. And maybe they thought they weren't ready to make that assessment and they weren't ready to make that announcement, but they have to this winter. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because there's going to be a Rule 5 draft and you have several guys to protect. You have to protect Bo Naylor. You have to protect several guys onto the 40 man, or you're just going to lose them for nothing.
I have a feeling when it comes to Bo Naylor, I have a feeling that he is going to get added here very soon.
Maybe.
And the reason I say that is because I love Luke Maile to death. I think that he has been a little bright spot for us. When we signed him, I think we all laughed and we're like, oh, seriously?
He's a backup catcher.
Right. Yeah. But he's played well. He's done what we need him to do. Yes, he's not hitting 300 and he's not, he doesn't have 20 home runs, but he's calling a great game behind the plate when it's his turn to fill in. But I think it's time. I'm watching Bo Naylor destroy AAA pitching. I watched him destroy AA pitching last year. It's time. Let's see what he's got. If we're waiting till September, great. But I'm ready now for Bo Naylor. I want to see what he's got.
Yeah, I get your point. I just worry about overwhelming a guy. That you can bring up a guy too soon. And we've seen, like Andreas Jimenez, for example, last year, he struggled at the beginning of the season, actually got sent down and had to kind of figure it out again, and then was brought back up. And to go back to Reyes here for a moment, remember a conversation that you and I had when they put him on the injured list there for a little while for his hamstring injury. I had thought that was kind of a situation where that he was maybe sort of hurt enough that it was fine. Like Major League Baseball wasn't going to say anything about it, but it was more to get in shape, to see some AAA pitching, to get his confidence back up. So yeah, you want to bring a guy up when their confidence is high, when they are hot, to keep that going in major leagues. But major league pitching is a little bit of a different beast, and so it can go both ways. You want to figure out what a guy has, but if with Bo Naylor, do you want him playing every fifth day? because
No.
he's gonna be the backup catcher
Right.
at first. So he wouldn't be getting every day at bats unless you're batting him in the DH spot a couple of days too, which is possible. He does that
Right.
in AAA. It'll be interesting, but he's definitely the future
Oh,
catcher.
there's so yeah, and like you said, there's so many. Like we haven't even talked about Richie Palacios. We haven't talked about Will Brennan. We haven't talked about um I'm Arias playing regularly. Like there's so many guys that they're coming, but we don't have enough roster spots for them. So what are you going to do? And I agree. I think this offseason is going to be a huge for the Guardians. They're going to have to do something. I think we need some pitching depth. I think we need, maybe another bullpen arm.
Mhm.
We're going to have some free agents that we're going to lose. That's, the nature of the business. But
And these are things I thought they would do at the trade deadline.
I can't believe they didn't do anything. I it stunned me. It really did. But
there was this interview with Chris Antonetti, and they were talking about like, oh, they didn't want to disrupt like the chemistry, and
yeah,
I thought it was a new one, because usually like we hear, even though they've made a lot of moves at the trade deadline the last several years, like I had tweeted that, like somebody said like, oh, they didn't do anything like they always do, and I listed off like every trade deadline trade that they made.
you gotta love those folks. Those
there's a
people
lot of
don't
them.
pay attention. Apparently, I don't know.
But we always also often hear like when they don't make more moves that like, oh, getting so and so back is like making a trade. And I was waiting for the getting Oscar Gonzalez back and getting Aaron Savali back is just as good as making a trade. And I always hated that. I always hated hearing that. And this one I thought was worse. Like I thought it was worse of just saying like, we didn't want to disrupt the clubhouse chemistry, and that's why we didn't make a trade. And we wanted to see that the guys we had like, come on, is a bullpen guy really going to disrupt the chemistry?
No.
I don't think so. Just be honest and just say this wasn't the year to push the chips in the center. Just say that. Just be honest. Because I've been to a bunch of games this season where I know that they were just actively not really putting their best out there when it came to the AAA pitcher that they were pitching in a doubleheader and the lineup that they were putting out there. And even with all that, they're still in first place. They're still exciting. And it is an exciting team. I just wish that they would have given them a little spark, a little jolt.
And you've read the reports that they were in on Contreras with the Cubs, but at the end they didn't feel like
Cubs held on to their guy. I guess it was a big asking price. Sean Murphy was a big one.
Was close, but apparently what they were asking for, I heard the name George Valera. And
you can't give up Valera. There's plenty of other guys I would give up.
And I get
basically Espino and Valera. Those are the only two that are off limits. Everybody else, I'd listen.
I get it. And we don't know who else they were in on or who they tried, but I get it. They didn't make any moves. They're sticking with this youth movement, as we call it, and they're going to let the young guys play. And we're just going to have to sit back and enjoy the ride. We've been saying it all season long. This team has been an amazing roller coaster. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, but you know what? I read a tweet. I think it was by our good friend, our good buddy that we like to quote here and there, Bob Nightingale, that of the remaining 48 games that the Guardians play, 30 of them are at home.
Yeah, because they've had the least amount of home games. And there's a lot of games at the end of the season against the division, against like the Twins and the Royals. And even this coming week, you have Detroit for 4 and Chicago for 3 before you go out to the West Coast to play the Padres and the Mariners. So you have an opportunity here with seven home games. One is a doubleheader tomorrow to extend that lead in the division. Really extend that lead in the division.
Starting pitching is catching on. The bullpen is rested. We got guys hitting. We've got different guys every night, Brian. I mean, this is so much fun.
Yeah, it's an exciting team. I mean, I'm being critical because I want more at this point. It's
well, we all
because they're good, because they're exciting. I wanted to see a little more, but they very much remind me of this past year's Cavaliers team, where they're young, up and coming overachievers. And during the live show that we did, you had asked me, are they going to make the playoffs? I thought they might end up short, and right now they're in the driver's seat. So and playoff experience, even if it's just the wild card series, would be huge for them, I think.
Well, and what did I say at the very beginning of the season? We both we made our predictions, and we said that this team would finish under 500. It would be I said that.
I thought they'd be decent. I thought they'd be
a little under five, like a couple, like at 500. And again, I completely overlooked them, and they proved me wrong every time. At our live show, I said it's World Series or bust. It's been 71 years, folks. 71. I would love to see the Guardians win a World Series. Will it be this year? I would love it. I'm going to say that they can't do it just so they can continue to prove me wrong. And then I could say I told you so when they win. But I mean, this team is so much fun.
Yeah, I thought they'd be decent this year. Ironically, where they are is kind of a function of the division. I had tweeted something the other day that the 2019 team that won 93 games that like everybody hated and was really mad at, that missed the playoffs, missed the wild card. If they were playing in this division with the record that they had at this time, they have an 8-game lead in the division.
And that's crazy.
It's just the Twins were just that much better that year. And then the wild card didn't have 3 wild card spots. And so they missed out on the wild card. And so that's again kind of another reason why I wish they would have made some moves, because the division isn't as good as you thought it would be, and you have an opportunity. And the rebuttal could be, well, it's fool's gold. Even if you win the division, are you going to make some noise against the Yankees, against the Astros? They went 2-2 against the Astros.
We hung with the Astros. Can we hang with Seattle? We're going to find out. I think we can.
I mean, Toronto is a playoff team. So, and you just beat Toronto. You have won some series against playoff teams. This last series against Boston, you split. You beat the Tampa Bay Rays 2-1. The Chicago White Sox have been kind of sitting at about 500, but you thought would be a playoff team. They seem to be playing well against the White Sox. So they have beaten good teams. And then back on Father's Day, don't forget that they beat the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So, but I do get that there could be that rebuttal of, well, they just aren't good enough to win a series against maybe one of those teams. But then I'll also remind you that in 2016 they weren't expected to beat anybody.
Right.
At anybody in the season, when they got into the playoffs, just get into the dance, and guys can get hot. So
the wild card series, it's the best of 3, and then the American League Division Series is 7, and the Championship Series is 7, and the World Series is 7. You're telling me that the Guardians have a chance in a 7-game series? I honestly think they do. I think that they have a chance in a 3-game series. This team is clicking on all cylinders. You have the youngest team in baseball, but you have the experience and the leadership of Tito Francona. I think that's a great dynamic right there. And I think that this team is going to continue to surprise folks. Now everybody's going to see, what we've been talking about all year. And as we inch closer and closer to September call-ups and at the end of the season, it's theirs to lose. The Guardians hold the keys. Everybody else is chasing them. And
they're in the driver's seat now. And especially with this upcoming week, they can gain some ground.
Yeah.
And with the pitching staff coming around the way it has in the last week and a half, that's huge. It's been huge. And if they can get hot at the right time, I do think that they can make some noise. And like I've said a couple times now, that's part of the reason why I'm annoyed that they didn't do something to just give them a little bit of a boost. Tell these young guys, like, we believe in you. Tell the fans, we believe in this team. Give me a reason to start going to the ballpark more. Give the
Right.
casual fans that haven't been paying attention a reason to go to the ballpark a little bit more. But just kind of sitting on your hands as somebody who's been going to the games and been going for years, that left a sour taste in my mouth for this season.
Yeah.
And unless they were just more honest about it, and they had said, like, it's next year's when we're going to start going for it.
And you can't, next year's not a guarantee that these guys are going to produce the way that they're producing. So we're going for it this year. It's just going to be so much fun to continue to cover it. But I got a question for you, Bryan. Here's my question. Are you looking to spruce up your company's logo or website? Are you looking for help when it comes to digital arts and marketing? If you are, look no further than Nova Digital Arts. You can check them out at Nova Digital Arts at iCloud.com. Tell them that the MLB Guardcast sent you. Nova Digital Arts is located in Greene, Ohio. You got to give my buddy Derek a call, 234-716-1687. Nova Digital Arts, bringing your dreams to reality since 2007. Shout out to Derek. He gave us a logo.
I was going to say, he's the man responsible for our beautiful logo and the background that you see. So if you're looking for something like that, give him a shout out. He's the man for that. So thank you for getting us set up, Mike. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is.
I'm glad to talk to you again. It had been a couple of extra days, a couple of extra weeks for us, but usually we're every 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we're going to try and keep that schedule going here for the rest of the season. This is the MLB part. This is the MLB Guardcast. I just said MLB podcast, but see, that's the play on words that we were going for here. We're the MLB Guardcast. Yeah. I'm Bryan Shaw. He's Mike Vorhies. Where can they find you on social media, Mike?
I am at Mike Vorhies on Facebook and on Twitter. We've got the MLB Guardcast Facebook page, and we are at Guardcast MLB on Twitter. Bryan, where can we find you?
You can find me at WeatherShaw, WXSHAW, Bryan Shaw on Facebook. And for you and I, we're someplace new. We're also on YouTube.
We are
going to be on YouTube. We're going to have this. People are going to not just get to know our voices, but get to know our faces. And we're going to be on YouTube, and we're going to have those links on our Facebook page. If you search MLB Guardcast, you should be able to find us on YouTube. We want to just be in all the places that we can be and get people to hear us as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So same guys, new name, same great content, and we hope to talk to you all soon.
No, it'll be soon, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Go Guards.
Go Guards.